Victor Arlen's life was a paradox. On the surface, he appeared to have it all: wealth, power, and influence. But beneath the polished exterior, a deep chasm existed between him and his son, Alexander. The distance wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. Victor's relentless pursuit of success had left little room for family, and now he faced the consequences of his choices. Alexander, once a bright and cheerful boy, had grown into a reserved young man who barely acknowledged his father's presence. The rift between them seemed insurmountable, a constant reminder of Victor's sacrifices and regrets. Ethan's newfound courage was sparked by an unexpected encounter with a young woman named Sophia. Her kindness, warmth, and unwavering optimism drew Ethan in, giving him the strength to confront the strained relationship with his father. As Ethan and Sophia grew closer, he realized that he no longer wanted to live in Victor's shadow. He yearned for a connection with his father, but on his own terms. Little did Victor know, Sophia was about to challenge everything he thought he understood about family, love, and redemption. As Victor Arlen sat in his opulent office sipping his morning coffee, he couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that something was amiss. His instincts, honed by years of ruthless business deals, told him that Ethan was hiding something. Determined to uncover the truth, Victor began to discreetly investigate his son's life. Little did he know, his search for answers would lead him down a path of self-discovery and force him to confront the very secrets he had kept buried for so long. The journey ahead would test Victor's resolve, challenge his perceptions, and ultimately change him forever. Victor's curiosity turned into suspicion as Ethan's secretive behavior continued. He couldn't understand why his son, who had always been obedient and reserved, was now acting so mysteriously. The billionaire's mind raced with possibilities, from illicit dealings to rebellious teenage antics. But deep down, Victor feared that Ethan might be slipping away from him, just like his own father had done years ago. Determined to protect his family's legacy and reputation, Victor made a decision: he would uncover Ethan's secret, no matter the cost. Victor carefully planned his move, ensuring he wouldn't be seen or recognized. He dressed in casual clothes, something he rarely did, and slipped out of the mansion unnoticed. Tracking Ethan's movements, Victor found himself navigating unfamiliar streets and neighborhoods, a stark contrast to his usual high-rise offices and luxury cars. As he followed his son, Victor couldn't help but feel a mix of guilt and anxiety. What would he discover? And how would it affect their already strained relationship? The uncertainty hung in the air, fueling Victor's determination to uncover the truth. As Victor trailed behind Ethan, he found himself in an area of town he'd never ventured into before. The streets were lined with modest homes, community centers, and local shops, a far cry from the affluent neighborhoods he was accustomed to. Ethan eventually stopped at a small, unassuming building with a faded sign that read, "Hope Haven." Victor's confusion deepened. What could his son possibly be doing here? He watched from a distance as Ethan stepped out of his car and entered the building, leaving Victor with more questions than answers. The woman's smile lit up the morning as she greeted Ethan, and Victor felt an unexpected pang in his chest. He had never seen his son so carefree, so genuinely happy. As Ethan and the woman exchanged a tender moment, Victor realized that his son had been living a life outside of their privileged bubble, a life filled with authenticity and connection. The billionaire's frozen stance wasn't just from surprise, it was from the unsettling realization that he might not know his own son as well as he thought. Victor observed the effortless chemistry between Ethan and Maya, and it stirred something within him. He saw a side of his son he hadn't witnessed in years, a side that was playful, relaxed, and genuinely content. The interaction was simple yet profound, revealing a bond that transcended wealth and status. As Victor continued to watch, he began to understand that Maya wasn't just a passing acquaintance, she was someone significant in Ethan's life. And in that moment, Victor felt a twinge of regret for not being more present in his son's world. Victor's confusion deepened as he observed the scene unfolding before him. A community center, children gathered, and Ethan and Maya at the center of it all. It was a world so different from the boardrooms and high society events he was accustomed to. He wondered if Ethan was volunteering or perhaps mentoring these kids. Whatever the reason, Victor couldn't deny the sense of pride he felt seeing his son engage with others in such a meaningful way. It was a side of Ethan he had never seen, and it sparked a desire in Victor to learn more about this unexpected facet of his son's life. As Victor watched Ethan and Maya interact with the children, he felt a surge of emotions he hadn't experienced in a long time. He saw the genuine joy in Ethan's eyes, the patience and kindness Maya showed the kids, and it touched a part of Victor that he thought had long been buried. For the first time, he began to question his own priorities and the sacrifices he'd made for wealth and power. The warmth and connection in this humble community center stood in stark contrast to the cold, calculating world Victor had built for himself. It was a sobering realization, one that left him breathless and introspective. Victor's mind raced as he tried to comprehend why Ethan had kept this part of his life a secret. Had his son feared disapproval or dismissal from his father? Or was Ethan simply trying to carve out his own path, separate from Victor's influence? The more Victor watched, the more he realized that Ethan's actions were driven by a sense of purpose and compassion, qualities that Victor had often overlooked in his relentless pursuit of success. A pang of regret hit Victor as he understood that he might have unknowingly pushed Ethan to hide his true passions and values. Victor's pride and ego, once his armor in the business world, now felt fragile and insignificant. He watched as Ethan and Maya made a real difference in these children's lives, and it humbled him. For the first time, Victor saw his son not as an extension of his own legacy, but as an individual with his own heart and aspirations. The weight of his own shortcomings as a father settled upon him, and Victor couldn't help but wonder what other moments he had missed, what other parts of Ethan's life he had overlooked in his pursuit of power. Victor's attempt at remaining unnoticed was foiled by the curious gaze of the young boy. He hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to react. The boy, sensing Victor's unease, smiled innocently and asked, "Mister, are you here to help us too?" Victor was taken aback by the question, and his heart swelled with a mix of emotions. He looked over at Ethan and Maya, who were now watching the scene unfold. For a moment, their eyes met, and Victor felt a connection he hadn't felt with his son in years. It was a fragile, tentative moment, but it held the promise of understanding and reconciliation. Ethan's voice was laced with surprise and a hint of caution. Victor met his son's gaze, seeing a blend of emotions there: shock, uncertainty, and perhaps a touch of vulnerability. Maya stood beside Ethan, her eyes observing the scene with interest and concern. Victor, still trying to process the situation, began to speak, his voice gentler than he intended. "Ethan, I didn't mean to intrude. I just wanted to see what you were doing." The words hung in the air, a fragile attempt at bridging the gap between them. The story pauses at a pivotal moment, leaving Victor and the reader wondering what he'll say next. Will he continue down the path of control and dominance, or will he take a step back, showing a willingness to understand and connect with his son? The tension is palpable as Victor stands at this crossroads, his choice potentially altering the dynamics of their relationship forever. The fate of their bond hangs in the balance, and the anticipation for what comes next is undeniable. Ethan's eyes widened further, a mix of disbelief and hurt flashing across his face. "You followed me?" he repeated, his voice laced with a quiet anger. Maya's hand on his arm seemed to steady him, but the tension between father and son was palpable. Victor, realizing the weight of his admission, felt a pang of remorse. He had invaded Ethan's private space, a place where his son had found connection and purpose. The billionaire's usual confidence wavered as he searched for the right words to explain his actions, knowing he had to tread carefully to avoid pushing Ethan further away. Ethan's question cut deep, exposing Victor's true motives. The billionaire's hesitation revealed that his concern was indeed tinged with suspicion, a testament to the trust issues that had long plagued their relationship. Maya's gentle presence seemed to cushion the blow, but Ethan's frustration was evident. He felt his privacy had been violated, and his father's lack of trust stung. The silence between them grew thicker, heavy with unspoken emotions and the weight of past misunderstandings. Victor knew he had to find a way to repair the damage, but the path forward was uncertain. Maya's suggestion broke the tension, and Victor nodded, grateful for her intervention. Ethan, though still visibly upset, agreed as well. As they stepped outside, the fresh air and change of scenery seemed to ease the strain momentarily. Maya's calm demeanor continued to mediate the situation, allowing Victor and Ethan to confront their issues in a more controlled environment. The conversation was far from over, but Maya's presence had opened a door for potential reconciliation, giving them a chance to address the rift between them. Victor's conscience pricked at Maya's words, echoing the guilt he'd been trying to suppress. He realized that his constant busyness had become an excuse, a justification for neglecting his family. Ethan's decision to keep his volunteer work a secret now made sense. His son had learned to navigate life without relying on a father who was always absent. The weight of Victor's regret settled heavier, and he glanced at Ethan, hoping to convey a silent apology. Maya's insight had uncovered a painful truth, forcing Victor to confront the consequences of his priorities. Victor listened intently as Maya described the center's mission, his gaze never leaving Ethan's face. He saw the genuine passion in his son's eyes, a passion he hadn't nurtured or supported in the past. The realization struck Victor like a ton of bricks. He had been so focused on building his empire that he neglected the most precious thing, his son's happiness and growth. As Maya spoke, Victor began to grasp the value of this community center, not just for the children, but for Ethan as well. It was a place where his son found fulfillment, connection, and a sense of purpose. Victor felt a lump form in his throat as he absorbed Ethan's words. His son had been trying to forge his own path, to discover his passions and make a difference, but Victor's expectations had silenced him. The billionaire's mind raced with memories of pushing Ethan toward a life he didn't truly want, and the guilt was. For once, Victor chose not to speak, letting the moment sink in. He looked at Ethan, seeing him not as a mere successor, but as an individual with his own dreams and aspirations. Maya's subtle withdrawal allowed father and son a private moment to process their emotions and perhaps begin the healing process. Ethan's vulnerability hung in the air, and Victor's admission revealed a deeper truth. The billionaire wasn't just concerned about Maya, he was grappling with the estrangement between him and his son. Victor's words conveyed a longing to reconnect, to understand Ethan beyond the confines of their strained relationship. Ethan, sensing his father's sincerity, looked at him with a mix of surprise and cautious hope. Maya, observing from a distance, seemed to understand that this conversation was about more than just her presence in Ethan's life. It was about rebuilding trust and bridging the emotional gap between two people who desperately needed each other. Victor's genuine praise and Maya's endorsement touched Ethan, who seemed to struggle with accepting such positive feedback. His blush and humble dismissal of his efforts showed a modesty that Victor hadn't seen in a long time. The atmosphere began to shift, as Ethan's initial defensiveness gave way to a sense of gratitude and appreciation. Maya's warmth and Victor's sincere admiration created a safe space for Ethan to embrace his accomplishments and the impact he was making. For the first time in years, the three of them shared a moment of genuine connection, a fragile but promising start to mending their relationships. Victor's request marked a significant shift in his approach. He was no longer demanding control or dictating Ethan's future. Instead, he was asking to learn and understand. Ethan's agreement, though tentative, signaled a willingness to let his father into this part of his life. Maya's supportive glance and Ethan's nod hinted at a potential truce, one that could pave the way for Victor to rediscover his son and forge a new, more meaningful bond. As they prepared to show Victor around the center, the air was filled with a tentative sense of hope and possibility. Victor's transformation was subtle yet profound. As he immersed himself in the community center's vibrant atmosphere, he began to see the world through a different lens. The genuine connections, the joy in helping others, and Ethan's passion all resonated deeply with him. For years, Victor had prioritized power and profit, but now he was experiencing the value of empathy and human connection. His pride in Ethan wasn't just about accomplishments, it was about the kind of person his son had become. And with that pride came regret. Regret for missing out on so many moments, for not nurturing Ethan's compassion and individuality sooner. Victor's heart, once hardened by ambition, was slowly softening. Ethan's skepticism was understandable given their tumultuous past. Victor's admission of past mistakes hung in the air, a vulnerable confession that surprised Ethan. The younger man searched his father's face, looking for any sign of insincerity, but all he saw was genuine remorse. Victor's willingness to acknowledge his errors and express a desire to change was unprecedented, leaving Ethan both cautious and hopeful. The silence between them was tense, yet filled with possibility, and wrestled with whether to trust this newfound side of his father. The moment of silence was a turning point, a quiet understanding passing between Victor and Ethan. Victor's acceptance of Maya, not just as a person but as a positive influence in Ethan's life, was a significant step forward. Ethan's relief showed that he had feared his father's disapproval, but now he felt a sense of validation. As they stood there, the distance between them seemed to lessen, replaced by a fragile sense of unity and mutual respect. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a beginning, a chance for them to move beyond their past conflicts and build a more authentic relationship. Victor's apology was a monumental gesture, one that carried the weight of years of missed opportunities and unspoken regrets. Ethan, hearing those words, felt a deep sense of validation and validation. His father finally understood him, and that realization brought tears to his eyes. As they exchanged smiles, a connection sparked between them, stronger and more genuine than any they'd shared before. In that moment, they both knew that their relationship could be mended, that forgiveness and understanding were possible. The future still held uncertainties, but for now, they stood together, united in a shared commitment to rebuild their bond. Maya's observant presence from afar allowed her to witness the breakthrough without intruding. When she rejoined them, she noticed the subtle yet significant change in their dynamics. Ethan's introduction, laced with pride, signaled a newfound confidence in his relationship with his father. As they conversed, Victor found himself in an unfamiliar role, not as a commanding figure but as a learner. Maya's wisdom and Ethan's openness taught him valuable lessons about empathy, compassion, and the importance of human connections. The experience was both humbling and cathartic for Victor, stripping away layers of arrogance and revealing a more vulnerable, receptive person beneath. Victor's handshake with Maya was more than a gesture. It symbolized his acceptance and gratitude. Maya's response underscored the mutual respect and understanding that had blossomed between them. As Maya returned to her duties, Ethan sought reassurance from his father. Victor met his son's gaze, his expression sincere and heartfelt. "I'm more than okay, Ethan. I'm proud of you, and I want to support you in whatever makes you happy. This place, Maya, it's a part of who you are, and I'm grateful to finally see that." His words were a promise, a commitment to embrace Ethan's true self and nurture their newfound connection. Victor's offer to volunteer was a remarkable turnaround, a testament to his growth and desire to be a better father. Ethan's genuine grin reflected his joy and disbelief at this unexpected turn of events. Together, they watched the children's lively antics, and Victor felt an unfamiliar sense of peace settle within him. For the first time in years, he wasn't consumed by the pressures of his business empire or the need to control every aspect of his life. Instead, he found solace in the simplicity and beauty of connecting with his son, embracing the chaos of life, and discovering a new purpose in helping others. Victor's journey had led him to a profound realization. True wealth lies not in material possessions or power, but in the meaningful moments shared with loved ones. His tears weren't driven by sorrow or arrogance, but by the profound joy of reconnecting with his son and discovering a sense of purpose beyond his wealth. In this moment, Victor grasped the value of emotional connection, empathy, and the simple pleasures of life. His heart, once hardened by ambition, now swelled with gratitude and love, reminding him that some treasures can't be bought or sold. They can only be felt. Thank you for listening.